Welcome into the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production. Available wherever you do your downloading, plus in TV land. And Mark, I don't know if you know this, we got wicked new cameras.
I know.
I don't look quite as old, or maybe I look older, Matt. What do you think?
They do show more wrinkles.
Jeez.
Oh, no.
And
That's
if
not
you're
good.
if you ever do start doing like the salt and pepper look, like it's gonna show. We can't blame it on a glare.
Jeez.
I'm just being honest.
Well, I'm super excited. This was something that we thought we needed to make an investment now that we're such a TV powerhouse, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, the second word I'm not sure about. The first word, okay, yeah. We're on a couple of TV channels, but yeah, this is a welcome addition. This is beautiful.
Before I get to our shout-outs, Asher Roth, he's of the Fan 590, Sportsnet 590. The Fan, I don't know if he knows the connection between the intro music and Macho Man Randy Savage, but he said, boys, that is the most epic intro music ever, and he absolutely loved it. And I didn't want to bring him in on the joke that's like, it's a wrestling theme, it's whatever. So anyways, I give a shout-out to Asher, who listens.
Yeah,
all the time.
that's big guest. Asher Roth, Fan 590, like you've made it.
When you hear that music, like a lot of people's brains thinks of, like most people thinks of like graduating. And then wrestling fans think about Macho Man. And then anybody in Peterborough and the surrounding areas thinks about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're sort of carving our own little niche with pomp and circumstance.
Correct.
We got a busy show coming up today. We're going to talk Petes, of course. We're going to talk about your thoughts on the new alterations of the game of baseball and NFL QB carousel. Some big news regarding Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. We will talk about that. But first, we always want to give a shout-out to our good friend Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Without Brian, this program would not be possible. Thank you so much. Check him out anytime at goldfingerlaw.com. You can also call for a free consultation at 1-877-730-1777. That number again, 1-877-730-1777. Now, we also couldn't do this program without the help and support of those who are with us on Patreon, patreon.com/capitalptbo. Each and every week, what we do is we take those people and we spin the wheel of win nothing. And this is, again, going to have a lot of names on it.
Yeah, we've got, I believe, 9 names.
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
And we keep getting the same 3 people winning. And like I think people think it's a fix. Maybe because Mark called it a fix.
Wow. Well, I mean, when it's the same guy, Dara Scholar, he's one of the original 6 members. Jimmy Murray, one of the originals. Maurice Cormier. Like guys like Brad Sinclair. Brad's been here almost day one-er.
Your dad, same thing. He's been here for a month and he hasn't won.
Don't worry about that.
Buzz.
Yeah, Buzzman wants to win. He can win anytime.
Fair enough.
Just not on TV.
So, Mark, tell us why people should sign up and support on Patreon.
So, a couple of different reasons, but really quickly, obviously, the financial support to continue to make the show is really important to us. We put every nickel, back into the show so that we can do things like cameras and that sort of thing. But you get a discount for the store too. At one of the levels, you just get a different level of exposure. You get your name on TV, fun little things, but really, it's about just supporting the platform and allowing us to continue to make quality television.
I thought it would be fun to do a watch-along with, like, Sunday Night Baseball or something.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, what we decide to do is take some of those higher-end Patreon folk, and then we go to a nice little establishment around town, and we have a fun little watch-along with Sunday Night Baseball. That would be a lot
idea.
of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing here.
Heck, yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Patreon.com/capitalptbo. Matt, you want to spin the wheel of win nothing?
Let's do the honors.
Oh, I like the little sound.
Some weeks we get sound, some weeks we don't.
Oh, speak of the devil.
Who do we
Mark Million Sr.
There he is.
Picks up his first win.
The Buzzman's off the schneid. He's got one. Thanks very much to everybody who continues to support our show financially, can support our store in person.
Yes.
We really, really appreciate
370 George Street North. Come and check it out. You would not believe the selection of hats that we got. What's hot now, Mark? What's going off the shelf super quick? Is it a lot of baseball stuff? Are people ramped up for the hockey playoffs?
Yeah, so a couple of lifestyle brands that we carry. Mitchell and, Catch and Deers certainly is a big one. But Spit and Chicklets and Pink Whitney and Barstool Sports is a big-time emerging brand, and we're the only ones that carry it here in town. So, and Catch and Deers. Catch and Deers is, it's a wagon. That brand's an animal.
Extremely popular brand. So come down and check it out again. 370 George Street North, or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. Let's talk some hockey.
Yes.
Let's talk some Peterborough Petes hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like the same storyline over and over and over. Just when I think they right the ship, they win 4 or 5 in a row, and then suddenly you're stubbing your toe against the Erie Otters, or what they were known as that night, the Erie Blades.
Yes.
Because they went all in on a bit of a throwback night, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say is head coach Rob Wilson, he does a weekly spot on Freak 90.5 with Graham Elliott, and he said, look, I mean, they lose to Saginaw, but you get 59 shots on goal.
Right. Kid steals
kind of
one.
a weird performance that you're not going to knock. They played extremely well against Niagara.
Yeah.
66 shots in that one.
And you want to beat Erie because they're the worst team in the Western Conference, so by no means am I making excuses, but I didn't think they played terrible in that game. So if you're looking for the positives and the silver lining, which we often do here on the program, that's what I would leave you with. And home and home with the Kingston Frontenacs.
Yeah. This will be a good one to get 3 points, if not get all 4. And the Petes, like I said, they deserved a better fate. I mean, the kids stole one, the 59 saves, 66 shots. It is what it is. The boys are no one wants to play them, and we'll see what it's really like. Last home game of the year, they've got Ottawa here in town. They've played Ottawa tough all year. That maybe in the last one, maybe they didn't have, I'm positive actually, Coach said that they didn't have the type of effort that they wanted, which is a typical Coach Wilson, retort. Like, you don't have but it's true when you got those types of thoroughbreds in the barn.
When you're talking about the newest acquisitions, who's impressed you the most so far, Mark, of the newest acquisitions? I think Othman has the highest expectation.
I think
he's
he does
been with
too.
the team the longest.
Yeah.
I've been extremely impressed with Gavin White.
Yes.
He's played really well. Played himself into an entry-level contract with the Dallas Stars.
Congratulations.
Which was pretty cool.
Yep.
Owen Beck, maybe I have a little bit higher on the list and I think he's starting to find his groove. But he would be the one that I'd look at and say, okay, like, I think there's a little bit more in the tank. And I think he'd be the first to probably tell you that.
I would agree. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right with each of those assessments. I think Gavin White has probably created the biggest jump. My biggest expectation is still with the homegrown guys. I still expect Stillman. I still expect Avon. I still expect Robertson. I still expect these guys to continue to deliver. The horses that you brought in are they're the complement, right? There should be nobody that kind of usurps the guys at the top. So the boys will be ready. There's plenty of leadership in that room. There's plenty of age in that room, which is important in the Ontario Hockey League or in minor hockey in general.
I don't know if you noticed this, but the regular season dwindling. Not much left, especially home dates for the Peterborough Petes. So we're starting to be on scoreboard watch to figure out if they can secure the 4 seed or there is still a world where they fall down to 7.
7, yeah.
Which just goes to show you how competitive the Eastern Conference has been so far, which is great. Let's switch to the NHL here. Because we're pretty sure we're going to get the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the playoffs. I think we've known that for a while, probably 15 games, 20 games.
They've got an 11-point lead, like 11-point pad on Florida, who's next. They're not going to get past.
Toronto looks more and more like they're going to be able to secure the number 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that in a second here. Tampa Bay kind of fumbling a little bit.
Yeah.
But is that a case of a team that's been to 3 straight Cup finals, who doesn't really care about the regular season anymore? Been there, done that. Just need to get in.
Yeah,
we're going to be super dangerous.
I thought the message that Cooper sent the other night when he benched Stamkos and Kucherov and the other guy escapes me at the moment, Braden Point maybe. His point after the game was, listen, I mean, these are guys that have carried us a long ways for a long time, and maybe it was more about getting the next iteration of these guys to start, to get their heads out and figure. Because that's who you're going to need. You're not going to need Stamkos and Kucherov and Point come the playoffs. You're going to need the second lines, the third lines, the fourth line guys like we see every year to move the needle. Vasilevsky's still going to be Vasilevsky.
He's still going to be the best goaltender in a playoff series.
And Hedman's still going to be the best defenseman in the series.
Yeah.
So Tampa will be fine. Leafs have certainly shown that as long as they don't play an under 500 club, which they won't get in the postseason, they're going to be fine.
Ryan O'Reilly, that news broke a little bit earlier this week. He's going to be out 4 weeks, broken finger. Concerning or not, I mean, he's going to be ready to go. He's not missing any playoff time. But, again, as we talked a little bit in the Pete's conversation, I'd like to see him get in there and not be banged up. I'd prefer that option.
Yeah.
At the risk of stating something super obvious, especially when you're flowing in with a new team. It's different. Matthews is out. You know, when he comes back, he's very familiar with the culture and the system, and he's going to put up points and goals, which is exactly what he's done.
Yeah.
But, you know, Ryan O'Reilly, I mean, this was the piece that you wanted to go out and get. It was going to shore it up. It was going to be that sandpaper. It was going to be that leader. And now you kind of remove him from the equation for about a month, which is, less than ideal.
As soon as I got the little update from the Athletic saying that he's on LTIR and he's out 4 weeks, like I felt like Doug Gilmour entered the chat room. You know, like Gilmour hops over the boards in Calgary, first night back, Lowry gets him on the back of the knee, and it's over. Dougie's gone. Career's finished. Obviously this isn't as dramatic, a broken finger, but Justin and I were talking about it the other day. Like, he feels like O'Reilly, even if that finger's at 90%, April 15th, hell or high water, he's circling into opening night lineup for the postseason. Yeah. There's no ways.
He seems like the kind of guy that just plays with like a punctured lung.
Yeah.
And it comes out after the playoffs.
That's how you win a Conn Smythe trophy.
These are the sorts of sacrifices that these stories, we almost live for these stories now come the 25th of June when the Cup's awarded.
Yep.
Okay, who was hurt with what?
What have you liked about the Maple Leafs the last little bit?
Well, I like the win against New Jersey, 4-3. Certainly, you know, you're down 5 minutes to play. Mitch is unbelievable. And don't come into the store and tell me that he's not. He might be, you may end up circling the wagon in 10 years on this guy being the number one Leaf of all time. And Justin says it all the time, and we kind of like, maybe not. But here he is. He drags you from 3-2. He gets you the shorthanded marker. Guys that can play short is different.
Mm-hmm.
And be successful and punish you on with a shorthanded goal. And then Austin scores a 2.5 left to win it. I have all the confidence in the world in Samsonov. I think he's going to be just fine. Matt Murray's clearly played his way well out of the net. It's over. That experiment is over. And they're all on 1-year deals, so it's okay. That's what I like, the result. Austin's only got 29 goals. And this Leaf team's going to circle the wagon on 100 points. We're not relying on a 60-goal score anymore.
It's funny you mentioned just the importance, I'll say, of having very talented players who kill penalties.
Sure.
I've always thought that that's extremely important, that your best players are still able to kill penalties.
Yeah.
There are some people out there who say, nah, that's why you bring in specific guys to be able to do that role. I remember a playoff series once upon a time where the Calgary Flames got into all kinds of penalty trouble, and next thing you know, Iginla didn't kill penalties, so he wasn't on the ice for 15 minutes of the first period of a playoff game. Joe Thornton, same kind of story. Alex Ovechkin, for as many goals as he scored, I think he only has 5 career shorthanded goals, which were probably at the end of shifts and stuff. It's a skill that I really like when my best players are able to do it.
Absolutely. Keeps the other team on their toe. You can't afford to make a blue line tape-to-tape pass and have Mitch is out front because he can pick it off, and if he can, you know, these guys could light up. Any goaltender could be lit up at any minute. But a guy like, and you show a forehand, backhand roof job, it turns a game.
Did you know that Alex Ovechkin only had 5 shorthanded goals, or was that a guess? Because if it's a guess, it's really good.
No. I think I had seen that when they were giving the breakdown of. Remember, they start now. They're making up things like most road goals, most home goals, all this kind of stuff. Somebody sent a breakdown of even strength power play and shorthanded, and I think maybe he has had 1 shorthanded goal in like the last 15 years or something goofy like that.
Yeah, he had
I
one
did
in
see that.
2021, 2022, and before that it was 08-09.
Yeah.
And before that, it was this rookie year.
There you go. Not a lot of shorthanded goals coming out there. Connor McDavid. We continue to watch this guy. I've got a hot take coming up, courtesy of our good friend Steve Simmons of the Toronto Sun. But every night I'm watching and I'm thinking, is he going to get to 160 points? Is he going to get to 70 goals? It seems now, one of the more crazy stats, he has more 4-point games this year than he does no-point games.
Right.
I think it's 9-6.
Right. That's a Wayne Gretzky thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a Wayne Gretzky
So
thing.
as of recording this, he's on pace for 68 goals, 88 assists, which puts him at 156.
A couple of things with Connor. I mean, he's obviously he's 20.
Wait a minute. Where are we going?
What do you mean?
You guys have the same hot take?
Okay, here. Okay.
Can you
I'm gonna
imagine
sit
that?
back.
Okay, maybe I'll steal your thunder, but we never talked about this. Here, the thing with, does McDavid's point total currently demean it because he's on an unbelievable power play pace? Is it almost one trick pony? Because I'll put it to you this way. He's got 124 points and 58 of them are on the power play. Gretz had 59 once. In the 200-point years, he hit 57, 47, 45, and 54. This guy's got nearly 50% of his points is on the power play. Does it cheapen it?
Here's what I'll say is it's still very important to collect goals on the power play.
Sure.
I know what you're saying for sure. I'm expecting my superstar to put up crazy power play points, and that's exactly what he's did. I don't necessarily dock him for that.
Half of his points are on the man advantage or shorthanded, not at even strength.
Yeah, but you're still terrified of him at even strength.
I understand.
Says all you have to.
I understand that, but how is that going to match up in a postseason?
You still got power plays in the playoffs.
You will, but the teams will be ultra disciplined. You're not going to play the Connor and Leon game on the power play.
See, but they'll be ultra disciplined. But I feel like we've seen the last few years, refs are calling more in the playoffs. I feel like we get more, and I have no evidence or numbers to support this.
No stats,
but I
just
feel like
the
just,
eye test with
maybe I
Latour.
just follow too many Leaf fans on Twitter, but I feel like we see way more power plays come the playoffs.
His power plays right now, he'd be 44th in the NHL scoring.
Yeah,
on the power play. What's your hot
insane.
take on Connor?
No, okay. I'm going to get this right because I want it to be attributed properly. We've got... Oh, God, this is the worst that I can't find it exactly. Steve Simmons wrote an article and basically already vaulting Connor McDavid into the upper echelon of players that have ever played the sport based on what we've seen. And the immediate gut reaction is, hey, wait a minute. You still got to win something to be in a certain tier, and you got to do it for a sustained period of time as well. Here's the article. It says hockey's new Mount Rushmore or Gretzky, Lemieux, and McDavid. Notice he's bumping out Gordie Howe with Connor McDavid already at this point of his career. We've already forgotten about Sidney Crosby.
Oh, Sid's old news.
So far gone.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's insane that after he won, yet another Conn Smythe Trophy and a cup, everyone's like, okay, now he's kind of past the Beliveau-Richard tier, and now he's kind of number 5, and that's where he's going to stay. And now it's like you can't even get any ink on Sidney Crosby, which is crazy. We forgot about him really quick.
Wow.
So that's where Steve Simmons kind of putting Connor McDavid. I think we're a little bit premature with that.
Absolutely.
I do think that we're seeing something that is extremely unique and that we haven't seen since Wayne Gretzky.
Me too.
It would be something if you took 10 years, fast forward, and McDavid gets to 2,000 points and no cups. He's the Marcel Dion at that point, right? He's the ultimate who's never won.
Barring injury, who can take a scoring title from him in the next 5 years, 6 years?
Well, depending on how the Bedard kid turns out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Barring injury, nobody currently in the NHL.
No. Not even
Kucherov?
close.
The only thing I can think of is if Draisaitl leaves and gets to play with somebody who scores a ton there too.
Kucherov is next behind Draisaitl. Kucherov's 33 behind. Pasternak's nearly 40 behind. They've played the same amount of games. There's no one on this kid's level.
And the goals keep coming. You talk about 68 goals. So Ovi, his career high 65.
Yeah.
So if McDavid gets there, we've never seen Ovi put up the kind of points. We've never seen Crosby put up the kind of points. I think 120 is his cap.
Yeah.
Did it as a 19-year-old and then never really approached it again.
That's right.
And McDavid's other than his rookie year, his lowest scoring season was 97 points.
Yeah.
And he played 64 games.
And he missed a bunch of games, yeah.
Yeah.
He had 105 in a 56-game season.
Well,
yeah.
That was the time that I think we were on
we had a bet going.
We had a bet going will he get to 100 points? And I thought, I haven't seen anybody get to 100 points in 60 games in basically my entire life since Mario Lemieux.
Mario, yeah.
I won that bet.
And you did win that bet, and I thought, whoa, we are seeing something a little bit different here.
Every morning, Jordan shows up at work at 8 o'clock, and I've got how many points McDavid had the night before, like taped to my door.
Yeah, I
like,
lost
he had
that
5
one.
points last night. It was against the Habs, so I'm sad, but he still had 5 points.
That was right around the time that a few months later I said, no, they're not going to cancel the Olympics because of some airborne illness.
Sure.
Boy, I had some Hall of Fame takes on that show, didn't I? Boston Bruins, speaking of Hall of Fame.
Holy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's left to say. I mean, they're going to go down as one of the greatest regular season teams we've ever seen.
Allmark.
It looks like they would almost have to – it's almost hard for them not to break the wins record at this point based on their pace.
At this point, yeah, like they've won 10 straight as of we taped here today. Linus Allmark has already got his name etched on the Vezina. It's over.
Scored a goal.
Yeah. It's that Bruins team. And I know, like, I hear what Marchand's saying. The guys, like, nobody in the room cares. At some point, they do care, because if you go out in the opening round, you're still going to get the 20-year anniversary of the 137-point Bruins. It's still going to happen. People are still going to remember it fondly. People still remember the New England Patriots 18-1.
Yep.
You know, we more remember Plaxico Burress in the end zone. But,
Yeah. Well, this will be the big challenge to them is the teams that have won 62 games, the Tampa Bay Lightning and Detroit Red Wings, didn't win the Stanley Cup. As a matter of fact, neither one of them even advanced to the Cup.
Correct.
Wings lose in the conference final. Tampa Bay unceremoniously swept.
Dispatch.
But then
by
they
the
won
Columbus
2
Blue
straight.
Jackets, and then the pain was taken away very quickly. So you can chalk that up to kind of a freak thing. The Montreal Canadiens, the year they won 60, did in fact win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So
And won 3 straight after.
yes, so they're okay. But the Boston Bruins, I have been watching extremely closely. And then they go out, and Dmitry Orlov comes in, kind of having a ho-hum season. He scores almost immediately.
Yeah.
Tyler Bertuzzi sets up a goal in his first game.
Right,
Just
it's
a little
so
bit
Boston.
of sandpaper.
Yeah.
Show me the team that's going to beat them. The New York Rangers, I thought maybe the Kane thing. It took him a while to get going. He did have a breakout earlier this week, which was nice to see, but I still give them a puncher's chance. But, man, show me the team that's going to beat Boston 4 out of 7.
Here's this like a hot take, but if the Sens can get in, because the Islanders are going to bounce.
Yes.
Islanders, they will lay right down for 4 straight against the Bruins, guaranteed. The Sens have too much youth. The Bruins are probably too veteran a club. Marchand will know how to get under the skin of guys like Brady Tkachuk. But if the Sens can get in, I'll take odds, obviously, on putting $20 in. I'm not going to take it at even money.
I need the take right now. You think the Ottawa Senators will beat the Boston Bruins?
I think the Ottawa
round?
Senators can push. That's not a 4-game series. That's a 6-7 game series. If the Sens get in, we're going to push it to the max.
What I will say is the Sens have been extremely fun to watch.
Yeah.
They are.
You're
I
just
was
letting
there
them play.
for the Chris Neal jersey retirement night, which actually it was a game they lost, but there's some pieces there where you sort of like raise your eyebrow and be like, okay, this guy's a lot better than I thought. I don't know if the points are there, but Claude Giroux looks like he found a bit of a step in the second half of the season. They played extremely well. They basically de facto destroyed my Red Wings' chances at making the playoffs with a couple of convincing wins. So, yeah, the Ottawa Senators are definitely going to be fun to watch coming down the stretch here.
I really liked the Chychrun deal, too.
Yeah.
Like, you're adding youth, 3 draft picks. Do you see this latest thing on the draft picks about it's 24th or lower? So they had an NHL GM and an analytics guy like Anderson in accounting have created this thing that in the last 35 years, I think it is, if you draft lower than 24th in the opening round, there's a 2.4% chance that the guy plays 100 games in the NHL.
Right.
And Ottawa gave Arizona 3 guys, a second rounder, a third, and a second. It could be that all 3 of those guys never play for the Arizona Coyotes, and here at Chychrun, you're going to get his best.
Well, this is why I always say when people say, oh, they got a first-round pick for so-and-so, some first-round picks, yes. Some, no.
Yeah.
If you're drafting 29th, 30th, 31st, I mean, as you just pointed out, I didn't know that statistic, but
Neither did I until I heard it.
the odds of them going on to grandeur, not great,
Sure.
not unprecedented, but not statistically great. What's going on over there?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my
Busy
goodness.
guy.
No, never mind. I just forgot to turn it
I
off.
thought someone was calling into the show.
They might be.
We'll take your calls.
Off the air.
Yeah.
What's Mark's cell number?
Yeah. Let's give it It's going to be fun. The National Hockey League, as it sort of enters the stretch run. Can we talk baseball for a second? Mark, you and I are both what I would describe as baseball purists.
Yes.
Matt Latour, you're somebody who's not overly interested in baseball except when the Blue Jays are winning. And therefore, the latest alterations in Major League Baseball are aimed at getting people like you to watch the sports.
Yep.
You've seen the clips. We're aware of some of the changes. I'm opening the forum. What say you on how you've enjoyed them so far?
So I love 20-second strikeouts. Like, those are fantastic. I mean, the rule changes themselves. I haven't watched a whole lot of spring training because the Blue Jays record doesn't really matter right now. I'll watch when they're above 500, more than 20 games in. That's my criteria to watch baseball. But I like the new rules based on what I've seen so far. Like, I haven't noticed a huge uptick in like stealing bases and whatnot with the bigger bases, but maybe it'll come.
So I didn't think I was going to care about the bigger bases. They are noticeably bigger bases.
Yes.
Are they?
And I don't know.
I haven't watched a ton yet. You got to put that thing on silent.
This guy did. This guy's
oh my goodness.
This guy sells millions of dollars in real estate. He's got to figure it out right now. So visibly, I don't love the way that it looks. Again, that's very like superficial.
You'll get used to it though.
You'll get used to it. Mark, pitch clock.
I don't mind this thing. Like, I'm not one that's big on the idea of having 8 seconds of delivery. Like, you've got both feet and you've got to be looking at the pitcher. I don't enjoy like, there's no reason for a batter to step out every single at bat. But the pitch clock, I can't have it decide a ball game. Even in spring training, that's maddening to watch.
Which we've seen.
6-6, bases loaded, 3-2 count, and we end it on a pitch clock violation. Wait till a Sunday night in October or in September, Yanks and Red Sox, and that's going to determine, a 2-game lead with 3 to play in the American League East. People will be wild. And the shift. You see these guys? They're already beating the shift in spring training.
It took literally 2 games for them to be like, okay, we've got this.
Yeah, we're just going to bring in the fielder, and then we're going to quasi-play 2 outfielders. So it's, look at get baseball to take their average mediocre fan and try to mitigate the rule changes to get those somewhat baseball fans to watch.
Have you guys seen the guy that just isn't swinging? No. How have I seen this and you guys haven't?
I don't know.
There's a rookie, I believe he's on the Dodgers, and he's rehabbing an arm injury, but they want him to be seeing pitches, so he's going up and just not swinging, and he's walking half the time. It's wonderful.
It's almost a psyche thing if you're the pitcher being like, okay, this guy isn't going to swing, so that weirdly makes it harder to throw
I've got to throw it in the box.
And I think it was Greinke threw him everything from like 59 miles an hour to like 92.
Oh, I did see that with Greinke. Threw him the big looper in at 59 miles an hour.
The
ephus, yeah.
The ephus ball. I'm going to reserve judgment till the regular season. I agree, Mark. That is a nightmare scenario. I don't love the pitch clocks being in sight of the television, which I don't think is going to be the case in Major League ballparks. I think I've been reading that won't be the case because it's too distracting.
Yeah.
It's like in the NFL, like they don't show you the play clock unless it's like winding down. It's not like you have it permanently in your screen.
Yeah.
I do have, I guess, my overall summary, though. At what lengths do you go with the sport to entice people who aren't interested in the sport to watch the sport?
Right.
I'm okay with some change because I think the game needed to be speeded up. And the players have nobody to blame but themselves.
Sure.
Because pitchers decided that they needed to take a certain amount of time, batters and all this stuff. So some of the onus falls back on them. That being said, most people that I talk to that don't watch baseball, they don't watch it because it's what they describe as boring. There's too much waiting. There's too much anticipation. There's too much dead time. And I don't think that's going to change based on this. That's not their bag.
What if the attendance goes down 10%? Have you made these improvements to the game in hope that the TV viewership goes up? The regional TV deals that Major League Baseball has crafted are already worth billions of dollars. So, if you don't have, you're not going to have a 10% jump overnight because you got pitch clocks. But what if you have a recession? What if you have like a receding amount? It'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Jose Bautista is going to be on the level of excellence for the Toronto Blue Jays. Matty, could you bring up the other names that are on the...
I know that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. I already wrote them down.
Then, Matty, I got another assignment for you. Can you bring up war leaders in the history of the Blue Jays?
Yeah. First, can you tell me who won the 1986 World Series?
That's easy, buddy. That's the Mets over the Red Sox in 7 games.
That's Bill Buckner.
Yep. How many games did the Mets win that year?
Oh, they're miracle Mets.
108.
No.
Yep. All right, sir. What did you want me to actually look
team.
up?
War leaders for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Ron
Darling, baby? Come on.
Oh, Ron Darling. For
Keith?
Sure.
All-time war leaders, yeah.
For the Jays, yeah.
Paul Beeson.
Okay.
George Bell.
Yep.
Joe Carter.
Yep.
Tom Cheek.
Yep.
Carlos Delgado.
Yep.
Tony Fernandez.
Yep.
Cito Gaston.
Yep.
Pat Gillick.
Yep.
Dave Steeb.
Yep.
And the last to go on was Roy Halladay.
All right, you want the top 5 war?
Now, I'm going to say there's a caveat because I believe Roberto Alomar was on there and has since been removed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, war leaders.
Top 5 war for the Toronto Blue Jays. 5th, Carlos Delgado, 36.8. Jose Bautista in at 4 at 37. Tony Fernandez, 37.5. Roy Halladay, 48.5. And Dave Steeb, 57.2.
Okay, my question for you, Mark. I think we're all in agreement that Bautista, he belongs
Absolutely.
on the level of excellence. Okay, cool. Who's next?
Interesting question.
Because I don't
next?
think it's Edwin. I don't think he did enough to get there.
No.
In my opinion. He did have the marquee home run, and he did lead the league, I think, in RBI one year. But for me, he wasn't quite on that tier. But I've got a name here that I feel just gets totally overlooked in the history of the Blue Jays. But I'm interested. Who would you put on next?
Yeah. An overlooked name, I'll be interested. I'm just going to write it down. I won't steal your thunder in case. I really don't see
anyone.
Donaldson is the MVP.
Like Tom Hankey was a Tiger, but for a short period of time.
You got my guy.
Oh no,
the Terminator Tom. Okay, I'll
I thought it was
and then
Roger Clemens. I mean, Clemens has back-to-backs, back-to-back Cy Youngs, 20-win seasons,
pitching triple crowns.
I know it ended badly with the trainer and all this other stuff. Yeah, Brian McNamee, like tough one.
I can't see a world that not only just the Blue Jays, any team honors Roger Clemens.
Oh, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Otherwise, positionally, I can't think of a guy. I can't think of a guy otherwise who would be the next one.
Okay, I'm gonna go Tom Hankey because I think you could make a case that he was the best at his position in the American League, led the league in saves.
Yeah.
He was one of the early guys to 300 saves. A bulk of those came with the Toronto Blue Jays. He was a member of the 92 team.
Yeah.
Weirdly, he actually left when he was old and had better seasons.
That's right.
Which was also just kind of the role of the closer had kind of changed. I think war-wise, he's probably in around 23, 24, somewhere in that range. And I just feel like for whatever reason, he doesn't get acknowledged the way that maybe he should. Mm-hmm. We know the importance of a shutdown closer. Mm-hmm. So Tom Hankey in my mind. I think Jimmy Key's just under.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Key's under. I think Olerud's under.
Yeah.
You could make...
Edwin's got 25.2 for WAR. Also 999 career games with the Blue Jays.
Couldn't hang around for one more.
Yeah, should have stuck around.
I don't...
You could make a weird case. So I've got Hankey as one that I think could get on there. What about Paul Molitor? Lightning in a bottle, only 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And one of them was the
World
94.
Series. Yeah.
So it sort of gets scrubbed out.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Jerry Howarth and I had a conversation. If you had one at bat from anybody in the history of the Toronto Blue Jays, who would you want at the plate? And it was Paul Molitor.
Boy, he'd be tough to replace. Yeah.
MVP of the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I think part of the level of excellence, and I appreciate that, is longevity. But some of that, it's like, okay, Donaldson. All right, MVP, that matters. But anyways, I'm going to go with the Terminator for the next one.
There's an entire decade where, I mean, aside from George Bell, you know, Mosby had probably his most productive years, best years with Detroit. Barfield, I mean, aside from having a cannon,
hits 40 one year and never really gets there again.
Never really gets right. Doesn't really move the needle. Goes to the Yankees. Yeah, Hankey, I think you're right. I think and same with Ward. You know, you could almost tandem that level of excellence, which I'm not sure is something they'd be willing to do. But an 8-9 guy, like Ward was good, but again, in a very small, he was a terrific. You knew when it was the 8th inning. Wardle's coming in, Hankey's coming in, and it's ball game.
What about my guy? The most at-bats in Toronto Blue Jays history. Any idea?
Most
Vernon Wells.
Oh, no.
Give me Vern.
No, absolutely not. Oh, you know what? You know who they should put on there is Alex Anthopoulos for getting rid of that deal.
Listen.
No.
Jakob Pertl to the Raptors, and then you get Luke Shen back to the Leafs. I want Vernon Wells back on the Blue Jays.
I felt like Vernon has an awesome 03, 33 and 117, 200 hits. Signs a big deal, and then it was just kind of he never took that next step to be a 40 home run guy.
And impossible to live up to the contract because once the fans were on him, and he's playing in the dark years.
28.7 WAR.
Yeah, sure.
In his career with the Jays,
but
he also played many years, so that's not that impressive.
Yeah,
like 1,300 games.
1,300 games. Like
almost 14. Yeah.
He's playing in the era where Jays are losing 95 ball games.
It's ugly. It's Carlos Tosca.
Yeah. Oh my
It's the Black Jays, the jersey.
Yeah.
Switches over.
He's only a year older than Albert Pujols. Like, we could bring him back.
No, we could bring Albie back.
He was good with the glove, though.
He was, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Shannon Stewart in the mix.
Yeah.
We got to do a segment on great, not that Shannon will fall into this category, but great, one-off Jays.
Yeah,
it's like Jose Canseco's career high in home runs actually came with Toronto.
Yeah.
One season.
Yeah.
What about Guzman?
Early on, though, that guy was automatic.
Doesn't have the numbers, doesn't have the counting stats.
No.
But Juan Guzman, is obviously a very popular player in Blue Jays history, and he did win an ERA title.
That's right.
I could maybe make a case for my guy Henkin. Pat?
Yeah.
Where's Pat on this chart? I feel like Pat wins the Cy Young. Pat was part of the 93 team.
Yeah.
Comes back, later on.
Yeah. I think there was just
wins 20.
That World Series hangover. You came back after the strike. Hankin moves on a couple of years later, goes to Baltimore.
I love Henkin.
Yeah, same.
World Baseball Classic, you in or no?
Oh, my God.
I had 26.8 for Henkin.
I think you're close, but I'd still go Hanky over him.
World Baseball Classic. The most heat part of this is the New Era hats. The hats that they have produced for this tournament are unbelievable. The one from the Netherlands is black with an orange crown. Ridiculous. Canada one is the same Canada one. The K for Korea, ridiculous. Some of them are super pedestrian. Some of them are super rad. That's it, though. Do not give me a tournament that means something at the beginning of the year. Guys blowing rotator cuffs and whatever. Forget it.
Exactly what you just laid out is why this tournament will never be the marquee event that they wanted it to be, this World Cup kind of feel.
Yeah.
Is that it's at the beginning of the season. Teams don't even want their players going.
Right.
There's pitch limits.
Right.
There's all this kind of stuff that it's not a true best on best.
No.
What they could do maybe down the road, and again, this just would appease the United States and Japan, is play a World Series after the World Series.
Sure.
But nobody's going to do that. They would have done it by now.
That's
if they
right.
thought it would work.
Yeah.
But that would be more best on best than what we see in this case.
That's right. No, I can't get into it.
Now, what I will say is back in 2009, I want to say, I went to a World Baseball Classic game at Rogers Center, Canada and the U.S.
Okay.
And it was one of the best in-person atmospheres because I think at that point, we hadn't quite figured out that the tournament didn't matter. And it was just sort of like, and both lineups were filled with major leaguers.
Sure.
Matt Stairs and Jeff Francis and Justin Morneau and Jason Bay. And the United States had Chipper Jones, who I think that year got in some trouble for saying Toronto's so boring. And he actually got himself in a little bit of heat. But it was spectacular. And Canada ended up losing, I think, 5-4 in that game. But it was a good experience, good memory, but I don't think the tournament ever is going to be what they want it to be.
No.
Whatever they envision it as.
It'll never get over.
No. Miscellaneous topics, NFL quarterback carousel.
Yeah.
We could start with the Daniel Jones news.
Oh, my God.
Who Daniel Jones, by the end of the year, and we even talked about it briefly on this show, was playing extremely well, played well in a playoff game. We kind of looked at him as the Toyota version of Josh Allen. Can run a little bit, can throw a little bit, maybe makes a few more, doesn't make as many red zone mistakes. And And then we came out, and obviously the Eagles took care of the Giants pretty convincingly. But that's a lot of money for a guy.
For a guy who threw 15 touchdowns last year?
Yeah.
Holy crap. 40
lot of
mil
money
a year.
Is this going to be like when we saw the NBA max contracts a couple years ago? Like Timothy Mozgov was getting paid like $20 million a year.
So right, exactly. The Cleveland Browns continued to brown by giving Deshaun $235 guaranteed for 5. So that resets the market, right? So now you got guys like Mahomes that make 50. Deshaun makes a shade under that, and Daniel Jones makes a shade under that. Like, let's welcome Lamar Jackson into the chat. $32 million, franchise tagged. The kid's run for more yards than Jones passes a career.
It's crazy.
Give me a break. NFL is going right off the deep end. And I mean, I don't care about salaries. It's not my money. They're only the amount that the players are making is a byproduct of how much the team and the league makes. So I don't care about that. $40 million. This will be an albatross around the Giants' neck if they go 6-10 next year, 6-11. Forget it.
Any other moves surprise you to this point? A lot of conversation about Derek Carr.
Yeah. That's an untenable position for the Raiders and Derek, really. New Orleans, right? On Derek Carr. We'll see. Carr's always been that guy he's giving you a glimpse. He's showing you I think, him getting injured the year, like 2 games before the postseason when they were on, like they were a real tear in the AFC West. That really hurts, but I think a lot of people are waiting on the carousel to stop on Rodgers whenever he emerges into the light. Is he going to quarterback the Jets? I don't know.
Tom Brady confirming he's retired. Has a kitten now.
There's all sorts of whispers. People still think Miami makes sense for Tom Brady.
It's crazy. And now Brady wants to do some comedy bit. Have you heard this? Initially, it was going to be like a stand-up comedy thing.
It seems like just a bad Kimmel segment. That's what we're going to get out of Tom Brady in retirement.
Going back to Rodgers, though, so he was meeting with the Jets in California earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Could be interesting. The Jets believe that they're... obviously Aaron Rodgers would probably flip their fortunes around a little bit. Good young team, defensively, not bad. Interesting head coach.
Sure, Sauce Gardner, nice.
Jumps into that division, goes against the Bills. Like, I could see that being intriguing. And let's be honest, like at the quarterback position, has there been a team worse off than the Jets for many, many years? Chicago Bears, I guess.
Sam Darnold, like catching mono in his rookie year.
Yeah, Cincinnati Bengals. There's been a few teams. Why, does Rodgers really want to go to the Jets team? That is he any better off or any worse off than he is going to New York as he is staying in Green Bay? Green Bay's got to move on. They got to go to the Jordan Love era. They have to.
Can't be a backup for that long.
No, he's 3 years in now. It's over.
Derrick Henry reportedly on the trade block from the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
That, again, changes the makeup of the team that they've built. And I think they realize that they've sort of maximized that power run kind of managing quarterback style team, and it's just not enough to get them to the next level.
Did they go to an AFC championship?
I'm going to say no, but I could be wrong.
I think they did go to an AFC championship once. I
want to say 2019 is the year I have in mind.
Henry is he's that guy. He's used up, right? Like you get to 27, 28, and you've had those sorts of carries. Chris John, how many guys have you seen take these amount of carries, these amount of yards, and 28 years old, and they're burned?
They went to the AFC Championship. They beat Baltimore the year that Jackson won the MVP. And then they lost to Kansas City, who beat San Francisco.
Okay.
It was like 2 months before COVID, so everyone just kind of forgot about it.
It's all blurry.
So I think that it's not surprising with a guy like Derrick Henry. There's a lot of miles on that dude.
I wrote this down just because it jumped out to me that seems like an intelligent guy. I think he hides from some of the bigger issues. But there's no doubt he's intelligent. He's learned under an interesting tree. I just don't know if the NBA is in a great spot right now. TV ratings down all over the board. I think interest in the regular season is not good. You've got CBA negotiations. Adam Silver, rumored to possibly replace Bob Iger with Disney.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in there because it's kind of interesting.
Is Silver Silver seems to me to be, he could easily capitalize on being perceived, or he may very well be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Taking that, going to Disney with the bubble and making it a success. And obviously having the Lakers win probably means a lot.
Sure it did.
Having a big market win and LeBron and Kobe and that whole thing. Obviously didn't mean to capitalize on Kobe's death.
No, but all sort of culminated.
It all kind of came together in that way. So, and Disney, I mean, Iger hasn't exactly had a stellar go as the CEO of Disney. I mean, there's been a couple of guffaws that haven't translated very well.
Interesting to see that kind of play out. I've got in my notes here Jon Jones.
What do you got for us, Matty, on Jon Jones?
I mean, you guys don't follow UFC much, but after 3 years off,
Gracie still in there?
Yeah.
No, Hoist is gone.
Oh.
After 3 years, he finally moved up to heavyweight and then won the heavyweight championship in 2.5 minutes.
Okay,
Just like that.
So give me the real, like, is that a criticism of the heavyweight realm currently, or is this more a speaks to how great Jones is that he can move up 3 years out of the ring and crush the number one contender?
So I think both. Jon Jones is fantastic. He had obviously some PED issues before. The guy's got all kinds of outside the octagon issues, but none that we heard of yet this weekend. So we'll see. But the heavyweight division, he beat Cyril Gane, who is the former interim champion. The problem is Francis Ngannou is the guy that everyone thinks Jones should fight, and Ngannou wants the freedom to fight elsewhere and fight UFC at the same time. So we'll probably never see that fight.
And White has said it's a hard no on UFC. Will never hire him.
Yeah,
They'll never be back.
They don't like him.
Right.
But for Jon Jones, he left for 3 years to go put on weight the right way so he could safely move up from light heavyweight to heavyweight. And now the GOAT debate is alive and well again because there's Jones, there's GSP is in there, Silva's in there.
I feel like GSP gets forgotten in this. I feel like Anderson Silva gets a little bit of forgotten, but where's Khabib here?
I think Khabib's a solid fourth.
Solid fourth. This guy wrestles grizzly bears.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's undefeated. And he quit because nobody could compete.
No. He quit because his dad died. And he said he didn't want to wrestle without his dad as his coach.
And there was no one could touch this kid.
He did wipe out the division, yeah. But, I mean, his thing was, I think Jon Jones has more title fights and title fight wins than Khabib has fights in general. It's crazy, this guy's resume.
Wow.
There's always that argument. I mean, GOAT argument. There's always that argument of no matter what, there's always a tougher guy, somewhere down the line. Does it stop with Jon Jones? Is he... he obviously has a checkered past. He has, steroid violations and drug problems and all this kind of stuff. But when you just watch what he's been able to do, I think he's only ever lost one fight.
He lost one fight, and it's because he was disqualified for an illegal elbow that left his opponent on the ground in a pool of his own blood.
So I watched Dana White on Rome, and Dana White said that it was a really bad, it was a terrible call by the ref and this sort of thing. And I've looked at a couple of other Ariel Helwani, a couple of other guys, Bronstetter, watched a few videos about that one loss. It's an illegal elbow. It's an illegal elbow.
So it's an illegal elbow that doesn't get called a lot, but it got called that time.
Sure. So, I mean, the fact that it's one, now Jones has had his crescendo moment of being
27-1-1. He has a no contest because of the drug stuff.
Is it kind of like when the pitcher, there's a questionable error early in the game that goes as a base hit?
Right.
And then he never gives up another hit?
Right.
Yeah, something like that.
I always thought that with the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game.
Yeah.
There's kind of a choppy Kevin Ory bobbled ball early on that went as a base hit because it was in the second inning. Who cares? That was the only base runner of the day, so it kind of took away a perfect game potentially.
Right.
Yeah, but for me, Jones, and I've been very critical of this guy. I've never been a huge fan of him. I like Daniel Cormier, and he made him cry.
Cormier, yeah.
But it's tough to deny him now. He's the heavyweight champion, and he just ragdolled the guy that's ragdolled the rest of the heavyweight division for the last 3 years. So, and I look around at heavyweight, I'm like, I don't know who here is giving him even a run for his money.
In the prime, does he beat Dan the Beast Severn?
Yeah, easily. What are you talking about?
What? Hey.
One time Jordan and I did a top 10 MMA fighters, and he had Bas Rutten third.
Check that guy's stats. His stats are unbelievable.
Where's the big bearded Canadian guy? Where's that guy from UFC 1?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, get a picture. He looks like Hillbilly Jim. He comes into the ring, and they call him the Bear or something. Comes in with a big pair of coveralls and a big beard, and he gets smoked. Hoist Gracie submits him.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look around.
Yeah.
He's not on the first UFC, but it's one of the early ones.
Yeah, it's ugly either way.
Transition here to the Docs Box.
Oh, what do we got?
We haven't done the Docs Box in a while, and for those of you who are just joining us on any of our various platforms, this is where we make a sports documentary suggestion, if you want. And I had one here, Mark, and it was called The Grizzly Truth.
Ah, yes.
And actually, I was trying to track down the producer and the host of this lovely, talented young lady. I haven't been able to connect yet, but that would be a fun little kind of one-off. I don't think that's a full episode, but The Grizzly Truth, it's available in Canada on Crave, and it has to do with the reasons and sort of the saga of the Vancouver Grizzlies leaving.
Yeah.
Which I was too young to kind of appreciate some of the backdoor stuff and the business kind of stuff that went along with that. A couple of revelations within that documentary that I think are particularly poignant. One, I didn't realize the handcuffs and constraints that were put on the Raptors and the Grizzlies when they originally came into the NBA.
Yeah.
So they weren't allowed to spend to the cap right away. They weren't allowed to get the first overall pick, which in that era, odds are they end up with Allen Iverson, Tim Duncan, something like that.
Right.
Which change your franchise on a dime.
Big time.
So the Raptors were better drafting, so they were able to survive, and eventually they get Vince Carter. And the NBA wasn't going to fail in Toronto because it's just like the New York City of Canada, so it wasn't going to happen. But Vancouver, they made some missteps, bad personnel. Another revelation was I didn't realize Byron Scott played for the original Grizzlies.
Yes.
And Greg Anthony. Like, that was quite the team.
Greg Anthony?
Yeah. In the original lineup. I also I knew the Vancouver Grizzlies were really bad. I didn't realize they were quite as bad as they ended up being. I think the most wins they ever had was 22.
Yeah.
And that was their last season. In their inaugural season, they had losing streaks of 23 and 19 games.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's a super fan that's created the Grizzly Truth. But like it was the biggest thing for me, they took NBA off Pro Line. That was the worst because it used to be the best. You could go in, you understood, you knew Chicago was going to lay it on the Washington Bullets. And you knew like the over-under, there was no easier game in town than the NBA. Then they took it off
and then
because
they realized
got the Raptors.
That. Yeah.
Brutal.
So go and check it out, The Grizzly Truth.
Yeah.
I think the interesting part about this documentary too, it only works if you're able to interview the key components. So you need to sit down with Stu Jackson. She absolutely gets it and asks some really good questions. She also ambushes Steve Francis at a card signing and is able to secure an interview with him where he talks about, you know, the saga that kind of happened and him not wanting to go to Vancouver, and he had already looked at buying a house in Chicago, but then they drafted Elton Brand, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to go to Charlotte, and then it didn't happen. So in about 30 seconds, a young guy figures out that he has to go and move to Vancouver. So he admits that he didn't handle that in the most mature light. But there's also an argument to be made that he was the beginning of one of the player empowerment people who was like, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay in Houston where I'm from. So go and check it out. It's Grizzly Truth. It's available on Crave.
Before we move on,
yes.
Harold Howard, the UFC fighter.
Harold Howard. There you have it.
Lost Hoist Gracie.
Yeah.
UFC 3. The most recent thing on his personal life is charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and then crashed his car into Fallsview Casino. That was 2009. Served 5 years.
Everybody has a tough weekend.
Just to end the UFC on a light note.
Matt, little inside baseball. I'm stopping at 52.
Yes.
Okay, let's get to the Mano y Mano challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, because we're talking baseball, Matt loves his baseball.
Oh, no.
Excellent.
300 career wins.
Oh, my goodness.
300 career wins.
A feat we have not seen since 2009.
Yeah, and you may never see again.
I'm going to say probably not. Verlander's the only one that within shouting distance.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. You'd like me to go first? Sure. Okay. I'll take Cy Young.
Correct. 511 wins.
Yeah.
Woo.
Randy Johnson.
The last one to do it, Randy Johnson. Yeah, he finished with 303.
Sticking with Johnson, I'll go Walter Johnson.
The Big Train, 417. You're knocking off the heavy hitters right away.
Roger Clemens.
Absolutely, 354.
Warren Spahn for lefties.
Spawn, Insane, and Pray for Rain, 363. The most wins since World War II.
Dave Stieb.
Oh.
Incorrect.
No, was he even close?
Not even 200 wins.
No.
Oh, wow.
David, no.
Saw
You
that
need
57 WAR, and I got excited.
He
Yeah.
didn't pitch long enough, and the teams weren't quite as good.
Yeah, you need to reach further back here to get some Bob Feller.
No. 268 for Rapid Robert.
What?
Yeah?
Edit this program.
Nope.
Are you sure Bob Feller?
I'm 100% sure.
Okay.
Also served 4 years in the war.
Oh,
so
that's true.
that would have sewered him a little bit.
When you said Randy Johnson was the last one, I'm struggling to think of people older than Randy Johnson. Babe Ruth.
Incorrect.
Yeah, that's
94 career wins for Babe.
Nope.
This is going to work out time-wise.
This is going downhill quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jordan knew he didn't have much time and tossed the baseball one.
Nolan Ryan,
Yes.
Oh,
324.
which is hard to imagine. 26 years, 324 wins.
Jeez, I can't even think of anyone. Roy Halladay. No.
3 in a row.
3 in a row.
All right, Lefty Grove, early win. Randy Johnson, Tom Glavine, that would be
Tom
one that you could have
Glavine,
got. Mickey Welch, Charles Radburn, we're going way back to the 1800s. Tom Seaver, Gaylord Perry, the late.
I had Gaylord, yeah.
Phil Necro, Don Sutton, Eddie Plank, John Clarkson, Steve Carlton would be one that you might get. Tim Keefe, Roger Clemens, my favorite athlete of all time. Greg Maddox, 355.
Oh, I should have gotten
Kid
Maddox.
Nichols, Pud Galvin, Christy Mathewson, the Christian gentleman, and Grover Cleveland Alexander. Those are the ones that
The only one out of that list that wasn't
Grover
named
Cleveland.
that I knew
Yeah.
was Greg Maddox. So
Impressive.
that was a lost cause.
Yeah, that's what you got to reach back into the pre-50s.
Yes.
It's a
That was a lot of
shallow
fun.
shallow pool after that.
That was outstanding. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We covered a lot of different topics. Also, just want to give another special thanks. I know this weekend here in Peterborough, it is the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Dan O'Toole, I mean, great feedback from the episode that we did with him. He was more than generous with his time, and I've had a lot of people reach out and say how much they enjoyed that, and they appreciated the fact that, like the true pros we are, we zigged and zagged a little bit. We didn't go with the obvious topics. We got into the weeds, if you will.
For me, that's more. We did the same thing with Larmer. I didn't want to talk about, and not that I run the interview by any means, but when we talk about these things,
Iron Man streak
we've
and blah, blah,
that's
blah.
been beat to death.
Yeah.
Leaving TSN, beat to death. Dan, give me the play-by-play gory details of you crying in the car. No, we don't want that. Dan's got a lot more things on the resume than just getting canned by TSN.
The one part, listening back, that I wish we went into further is when he said that he was dating former Miss Honda Indy in Vancouver.
How did we not touch that
It
point
just sort
again?
of was
Yeah.
so crazy that it went over my head, and I was like,
Right.
whoa.
Yeah.
And then I watched it back. I was like, man, I should have followed up on that.
We'll have to have him in again.
Yeah.
Just to talk about his exes.
25 seconds here.
Yes.
How much? Okay, here's Deep Thoughts by Mark Million. Remember that from SNL? Some of you as well. Okay. Imagine how much harder men and tougher men would look, especially senior citizens, if male pattern baldness was reversed.
So he wants everyone to have a fade.
No, yeah, you'd have the cleanest, tightest fades ever.
So everyone balding looks like Jordan Mercier.
No, guys that'll be 60, 70, 80 years old, you legit have nothing around the outside. But you've got like Brian Burke style combacks, greasers, brush cuts.
The stuff we think about on a daily basis here on the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Available wherever you do your downloading. For Mark Million and Producer Matty, I'm Jordan Mercier. We will talk again next week.